started asking guys who was their favorite player, their hero growing up, I would say the majority of them, of these guys, would be Kobe Bryant. And beyond the players playing today, if you went to fans of the same age, fans in their 20s and their early 30s, it would be the same thing. This is truly one that will impact everyone in the NBA community, but especially people of those ages.
We are scheduled to take you to Denver at the bottom of the hour, about a half hour from now, in fact, for the Rockets-Denver Nuggets game. We have no indication that that is not going to take place at this point. We're hearing reports of practices being canceled around the league. In San Antonio, the locker room has been closed. The Spurs are playing this afternoon as well. Obviously, we'll keep you updated on any changes to the schedule, how the NBA might react to this news, which, we're finding out as they do here. Kobe was, a 13th pick in 1996. If you've forgotten, it was by the Charlotte Hornets. The Lakers brought him in a trade for Vlade Divac. And then he became known as competitive a human being as the league has ever seen. Sometimes that manifested itself in ways that might have been off-putting to teammates early in his career, but everyone understood that he was in it to win.
Well, he was often misunderstood. And when you look back and you think about a guy that came in, I think he was still 17 years old, just turning 18 years old. And he's playing on a team in a league where there's grown men on his team, and he could not participate and do some of the things that his teammates could do in terms of being able to go out, and if it was have a beer after a game or whatever the case may be, he was too young to do that. And so part of what made him so great was his ability, because he couldn't do those things, he kind of kept to himself. He was a true student of the game. He watched film of all those that came before him, and just in his relentless pursuit to be the best to ever play the game, wanting to be that, he kind of isolated himself, because he, like I said, he couldn't put himself around and do some of the things that his teammates could do. And I think that that's one of the things that made him really great as a player. It made him, he was misunderstood because it seemed like he kind of just isolated himself and stayed away from everyone. But in terms of competitiveness and willpower, and a guy that you want to be in the foxhole with, in any kind of game situation, he was a guy that you want to be. From the discipline that it took for him to stretch and work out and take care of his body, and then the pain threshold that he had when he would come down and turn his ankle and just tape it up tighter and still play in the game, and just all those things that if you were there like I was, that you saw and you understood that that's what made him special and made him different than everybody else. And then shooting for, obviously he idolized Michael Jordan, who is, to me, the best that has ever played the game. And Kobe was right there with him, and he gave him something to shoot for. And so, I don't think that there's any other, if you talk about the greatest competitors in the game, I think you're going to say Michael Jordan and you're going to say Kobe Bryant. Those are the two best competitors that I've ever been around or seen.
First time I met Kobe Bryant was around the 2010 All-Star game, and he came up to a set where I was sitting so we could interview him, and that was the season he had the broken finger he was playing through, and this thing was just mangled. And of course, folks remember the night he blew out his Achilles and tried to keep playing for a little while. As a coach who had to coach against him for so many years, obviously there are the physical skills, the tools that he had, but how did his competitiveness, that seemingly, inextinguishable fire that he had to perform and to win, how does that factor into how do you try to stop him?
Listen, when I knew how hard it was going to be to ever beat Kobe Bryant, he took, when I was coaching in Orlando, one summer he took his family on vacation to Disney World, and he was having trouble finding a place to work out. He called our general manager, Otis Smith, and said, "Hey, can I come up to your practice facility in the mornings and work out? I'll get up there around 5:30 or 6 in the morning. I'll be gone before your players come in. I just need a place to work." They grew up on a true icon. There have been a lot of great players in this league, but there are very few iconic guys. You know, AI, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaq. You know, I mean, that's of this generation. These are the guys that you're talking about that these guys grew up on, and it's not like this icon died at 65 and has been out of the league for 20 years and it's expected. It's too soon. I mean, way too soon. He's a young guy, and like Brian said, he was transitioning to having great success making films and in business, and he's a guy these guys loved. None of them are going to feel like playing today. It's going to be interesting to see what the league decides to do.
And to your point about his youth, he has not yet been enshrined in the Basketball Hall of Fame, which will surely now happen posthumously in September. I think the ceremony's in September, because this is the first year of eligibility in a very high-profile class that he is in. You see the career numbers. It was just last night that LeBron James passed him for third all-time on the career scoring list. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that was his last tweet. Not that that's the, message of record necessarily, but that was his last tweet, was congratulating LeBron James on passing him for number 3. Just happened last night, and now reports again appear to indicate that Kobe Bryant is dead at the age of 41 due to a helicopter crash near Calabasas, California, just north of Los Angeles. You came into the Lakers when he had already started to establish himself as a star in the league, a young star, but a good young player. Do you remember the first time you really met and got to know who he was?
Yeah, I mean, I met him, prior to that, like I said, when he was a little kid, when I played a year over in Italy, and I played against his father.
Right.
But coming to the Lakers, I came in 99-2000 season when Phil Jackson's first year. And ironically, I made the team because he broke his hand at that time. They had 14 guaranteed players on the roster, and I didn't come to camp because I didn't have a guarantee. I was 11 years in the league, and their first preseason game, Kobe actually broke his hand. Phil Jackson called me. I was in Oakland just working out, and he said, "You got 8 weeks to make me cut somebody else on our team while Kobe's hand is healing." And that's actually my story of how I got to the team. But like I said, it was you knew that there was something different in his work ethic, for one. And one of the things that Stan just talked about was the early morning sessions, that he had. And many times as a coaching staff and coaching him, we would get to the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning to have our coaches meetings, and Kobe had already had a 2-hour session working, and being a full sweat from having his own individual workout before we even got to practice and things of that nature. I want to take a step back for a second and try to help some of those who feel like I feel right now. I try to, as a man who, I'm 53 years old, and I've dealt with a lot of death in my time. And one of the things that has helped me deal with, my family died in a car accident in 1993. One of the things that kept me going is the fact that while they were here, we lived, and we made a lot of memories together. And when they're gone, that's all that you have are the memories that you made while they were here. And for those Kobe fans that are out there that are feeling like I feel right now, just try and think of all the joy that he brought you, making the highlights that you remember, for all the Laker fans, that the championships that he brought, that put smiles on your faces. Those are memories that you're going to have to rely on going forward. And as sad a moment as it may be right now, we were blessed to have such a talented player to bring us the amount of joy and happiness, especially, like I said, for Laker fans and NBA fans as a whole, to have this guy for as long as we did and to be able to witness his greatness on the court, his popularity overseas in China, a guy that can speak fluent Italian and Spanish.